It is every police leader's responsibility to not only continually develop their own skills and abilities, but to prepare the next generation of leaders. Retired Captain William Frost helps you meet this task by providing a clear blueprint to follow in his book, Leadership in Law Enforcement. To learn more about his book and other consulting and training he provides, go to www.code33consulting.com. That's code33consulting.com. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Blue Grit Radio. This is your host Eric, and today I'm going to go back to the roots a little bit because where this all started as far as Blue Grit Wellness was really a spin-off of some of the things I was talking about on my own personal social media, which was sharing health and nutrition, fitness type of stuff. Yeah, back in the day I was known for being the pretty extreme, rigid guy that would just bring in just the Tupperware of lean protein, like an ungodly amount of broccoli, which there is such thing as too much of a good thing. Yeah, I mean, you can look into all of that, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. More is not better, and that's most of the time true. In any case, because it is January, because we're looking at the new year, a lot of people are trying to focus on some healthy habits. As usual, I would say start small, start sustainable. You know, a lot of the clickbaity type of fitness fads are pretty extreme for good reason, right? They have extreme measures for extreme results, but all too often, this is something that's been known for decades. People yo-yo back really hard. And sometimes you can create, this metabolic, I suppose, inflexibility because you go to such a caloric restriction, or you create these really unhealthy binge type patterns. We've talked about that on the show with multiple different guests from true nutrition and dietetic background. But today, I'm not going to be providing medical advice, anything like that. That is your disclaimer. But we are going to focus on what people can think about eating. And oftentimes, meal prep goes out the window. You have all the best intent, but with shift work, it's just not as easy as a normal 9 to 5. Totally get that. Call out, holding over late, trouble at home, having to deal with kids and medical family stuff. That's just part of what we face here, all the stuff that we face here in law enforcement and first responder life. So I'm going to be breaking down some go-to snacks. What I'm actually going to be doing is going off an article from the Harvard Health Publishing as a template. And I'll add in some of my anecdotes here as far as what that jogs in my memory of things I've done through the years, especially working graveyard, when the common excuse, and I do say excuse, right, narrative, whatever you want to say, is that we don't have time and there's nothing accessible. But most cities have a 24-hour grocery store, and so you can already see where I'm going there. But this article from Harvard Health, high protein snacks to build muscle and keep hunger at bay. And we're just going to go down here. And I like the focus on protein. That's part of why I chose this article. And I'm going a little bit blind outside of that. But I've had Audrey Andrade talking about the importance of prioritizing protein. That is a more common tactic that a lot of people are gravitating towards. A lot of the more middle of the ground, moderate approach people. And if you are looking for insight, advice, if you are looking to hire somebody or go off their program, I would highly recommend you go down someone that's a bit more mainstream in their approach. And what I mean by mainstream is like not the crazy fringe stuff. Now, if you have all these food intolerances that have been vetted by your physician or your naturopath, and you're doing more intense measures like an elimination diet, then by all means, like, continue on that path, right? I'm not hating on carnivore. I'm not hating on vegan diets when you have actual blood work accompanying it. and there have been some concerns with long-term veganism without monitoring certain vitamin levels, B vitamins being the predominant one. Plant-based, yeah, nothing wrong with that. I think that most of us recognize, if you've been following it for a long time or studying it for a long time, leaning towards real food, natural food in a closer to natural existing state, minimally processed for the majority of your food, you're probably going to be looking, feeling, performing pretty well. But back to the article. So protein snacks. All right, they got chickpeas. We're starting off with chickpeas. I don't have anything against chickpeas. I think chickpeas are delicious. I mean, think about hummus. A couple things I would inject though. Chickpeas, off the cuff, are probably your lower protein bean as far as like a legume. So if you're trying to get plant protein or protein through sources like legumes, you're probably better served going like black beans, pinto beans, things like that. And then, if you have a lot of beans, recognize that your gut might not be used to it. So again, don't go on some crazy bean diet all of a sudden. You want to toggle that up, let your digestive enzymes and your body catch up to that stuff. Also, I will say, not all hummus is created equal. If you can make it at home, it's pretty amazing. But of course, we're talking about the easy things that you can get. If you look at the store, oftentimes there's going to be hummus that's laden with canola oil, which is not a great thing. It's really hard to avoid seed oils in general. Try to go to something with less of it, if you can tell, based on where it's stacking up in the label, right? So if you think about the ingredients, the first ingredient is going to be what the majority of that thing is, I believe by weight. So don't quote me on that, but I believe by weight, which a lot of times coincides with the actual makeup of the thing. So if you have like seed oil or, grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, like toward the end, then it's probably not crazy critical. If it's really early on, then you may want to, raise an eyebrow. There are hummuses that have extra virgin olive oil in them. Much better option there as far as antioxidants and just how your body receives that. So lots of information on that if you want to hit your search engine and look at the most healthy, I suppose, plant-based oils for human consumption. And there's a lot more data coming out on that. Jerky. This is a great go-to too, right? It's something that you could easily keep in your patrol bag right next to you all the time. Something you could put in your go bag as well, right? So hope everyone that's a cop knows what a go bag is. You're going to have your extra ammo in there, maybe a bottle of water, maybe not. But I think for the long stint, it would be very wise. And certainly medical supplies. So a little pack, a satchel you can throw on your shoulder for those higher incident calls. Anytime you have time to grab your rifle and or a helmet and or a plate carrier, that's what you're grabbing alongside with it. So for your new folks or people that are looking for a gift for your new copper in your life, a go bag, something pretty simple, could actually be a great little thing. Throwing something that is very shelf stable, dry in there is great. Like I went in my go bag maybe last year and I found these protein bars. They were like literally rock solid. So check that thing, switch some stuff out. With jerky, I will say again, jerky is not all created equal. However, if you are trying to get more high quality nutrition, these days it's dramatically easier to find affordable options readily available with distributors like Amazon and such. But even in the grocery stores, Target, whatever, it used to be kind of hard to find these quote unquote like fringe brands that focused on grass-fed, grass-finished beef, higher quality turkey or whatever, as far as your protein source. Look at the content, right? So try to avoid those with a ton of preservatives. Salt is salt, sodium, as long as you're hydrating and you moderate it. Again, don't take my advice over doctor's advice, like monitor your own stuff. Know that you want to find something with less fillers. You want to find something of higher quality, and you can absolutely and should absolutely look at the protein to fat content ratios if you are leaning towards one type of diet strategy versus the other, right? So if these are like a go-to part of your day and you're trying to get lower carb, then definitely read so you don't have fillers and then a ton of sugar in a lot of these, teriyaki and what have you, marinated jerkies. So a lot of times these beef sticks tend to be a lot simpler. Beef sticks, turkey sticks, chomps, all these different brands. Take a look at the label. And I think you're seeing a trend. All these things, take a look at the label. And then you can go from there, make your best informed choice. Before I go past this point and this idea, the fat content can range hugely, right? So if you think about like a Slim Jim, it might have equal, I'd be curious now, but it might have equal grams of fat to protein. And then that means that you're actually getting more fat, calories per each gram than the protein gram. So just things to think about. And some sticks out there or jerkies might actually have more fat than protein. And so think about it. Think about what you're trying to accomplish by having this snack. Is it part of your daily regimen, or is it just something like if you need in a pinch, or accompanying something that is hydrating, like a fresh apple? Cheese. Okay, so I'm an Asian American dude. Don't tolerate a ton of cheese. However, higher quality cheese and without the fillers, and certain cheeses have more and less lactose than others, and you can definitely look into that if you are dairy sensitive or dairy intolerant. So things like that, take a look. Hard cheeses generally more in that vein. Oftentimes people handle cheese just great. It can help kind of round out some of your fats, things like that. However, mind the type, look at the ingredients, look at the content. Again, cheese can be a strategy to get you a little bit of protein, some kind of steady burn, I suppose, energy alongside the rest of your snack. But some of them, if you're trying to go low carb, can have quite a bit of carbs that add up. So just things to be mindful of there. Nuts. Okay, so they outline peanuts, almonds, pistachios having the most protein. I think that's probably consistent with what I have off the cuff. I mean, walnuts would tend to have less protein. Macadamia nuts, certainly less proteins, tons of fat. Macadamia nuts, if you're trying to do keto or lower carb, have some of the lowest, I suppose, carbs, like net carbs or carb in the ratio. So something to keep in mind, not all nuts are created equal. So again, things to think about. Just know, and like some of these foods we've already mentioned, they can be really highly caloric in moderate doses, right? So it doesn't take a lot, right? Like a handful of nuts. And what does a handful even mean, right? So you see where I'm going here. It can easily add up hundreds and hundreds of calories. However, if you are good at moderating, if you're not, tending to just overeat on something like nuts, if that's really boring for you, just have a handful and you feel pretty good for a while, that's great. If you're like me and you have like a salty roasted nut and you are apt to sit down and either be like working or watching TV or whatever. I mean, we're talking about work, so of course you're not watching Netflix on your phone. You're out there doing cop stuff, right? So if you tend to just mindlessly eat or stress eat when you're tired, fatigued, that might not be a great option. I can and I have been known to just demolish like a legitimate jar of nuts in one sitting. And you're talking about 800 to 1,000 or more calories literally in, 30 to an hour. So know thyself. Edamame. So that is, we're talking about soybeans. That's most commonly seen in sushi restaurants and Japanese restaurants where it's steamed and salted lightly. Yeah, sure. I know that there's a lot of, I don't know about a lot. I suppose in the muscle fitness and exercise space and nutrition, there's a lot of talk about, the estrogenic effects of soybeans. I think that we're in a day and age where we really should be mindful of that, just because there's estrogenic stuff everywhere, like literally all the plastic we wear. And I'm as guilty as many people, just having plastic clothing, and I try not to drink from plastic vessels or plastic food containers, unless it's, not heated. But even then, like try not to. So if you're super confused about what I'm talking about and you're thinking I'm like a tinfoil hat person, now start looking up like microplastics in food and food containers. I mean, shoot, there's like plastics in everything, even like seafood that you're eating from the ocean, which is super sketchy that we've gotten to this place. But if we're talking about health, it's just something to be mindful of. But a handful of edamame every now and then isn't gonna. I don't imagine would tip the scale that much. But if it is a snack you love, I'm sure you can incorporate it alongside a lot of other things. So just try not to lean too heavily into just one thing. And that's me speaking from my own experience, where for years I was trying to figure out like the ideal kind of go-to things to bring to work, snacks to eat, where, Monday through Friday or most of the week, I could have been that guy that ate like the exact same thing every day. Now I have a much more moderate approach. It's just not aligned with my goals and how I want to do my thing and live life. And I would usually find myself burning out on that thing and then overeating or what have you. So just things to think about. Tuna. So it's hard to argue the protein content of tuna, like canned tuna or pouch tuna. I think, again, off the cuff, tuna and chicken breast are probably your most extreme, like low fat, zero carb options, high protein content. So if you are just trying to get that base of protein, especially from meat or like a natural food source, it's hard to beat. Things to keep in mind though are the mercury content of tuna. So if you're having like tuna every single day for a meal or multiple meals, let's say like a couple cans, and yeah, I've been there too in my, I suppose, most adept gym, kind of muscle chasing days, just be aware. And there are things that you can do to mitigate that per a lot of resources that I've found. A couple of them are actually activated charcoal. So you can take activated charcoal orally in a capsule or powder. It actually can do quite a bit, or it's supposed to do quite a bit. Again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but a lot of the reason is for detoxing. So grabbing those heavy metals in your digestive system so that you don't absorb them and you kind of more pass them through. And the second thing that is a super noble thing to do on the side, and you can get some health benefits from this, are donating blood every so often. When you donate blood, and this sounds bad because I'm passing on the heavy metals to someone else. Well, you're talking about saving lives. So I guess you got to make your choice, but you can kind of offload some of the heavy metals from your blood, and it's getting shared out or getting diluted and mixed with a bunch of other people's blood, and then you're producing new blood. Thing to keep in mind though is I've recognized that when I started donating blood just about as regularly as I could, which I believe is every 8 weeks, my iron level started falling, especially when I wasn't eating quite as much red meat as sometimes in my life where I was going like really heavy on red meat. And so iron levels have fallen. My naturopath has recommended me numerous times to cool it on donating the blood, right? He's like, maybe every other time you're eligible, right? So rather than every 8 weeks, maybe every 16 weeks. I kind of push back because I kind of, want to do that. It's something that's important to me. That I don't mind it. I'm not afraid of needles. I don't mind sitting there for, 30 minutes every so often. However, I have kind of toggled it back and taken some iron supplements. So we'll see where that lands me. And then conscientiously trying to eat some more lean red meat, because I was eating like just a ton of all kinds of red meat, and cutting back on that for other blood work reasons. And I won't bore you with all that right now. So eggs. I love that this came up because eggs are very, very nutritious. They're probably one of the most nutrient dense foods that you can get, as far as every egg is 6 grams of protein. So 4 eggs in a breakfast, like that's a pretty legit amount of protein. Just scramble them up, or, poach them if you want to get fancy, bougie, right? But hard-boiled eggs, if you don't mind, if you like them, they're fine. If maybe you don't eat them around a bunch of other people, but hard-boiled eggs broken up over some salad or just salted and peppered, that's about as easy a snack as it gets if you bring some in, or you can go to the store. Again, it's kind of like best or good, better, best. Best is you do it at home, or you cook them, you boil them at work and shoot. Like if you have a kitchenette and you have that opportunity, why not? Eggs are super cheap if you think about what you're getting for them, even when you get some pretty high quality eggs, organic, free range eggs. And yes, there is a difference between cage free and free range and pastured and all this stuff. Again, I'll let you kind of dig into that. The price will go up as you go. If you know someone that's local that raises chickens for eggs, like that's pretty amazing. But even if you think about the nutrient content and the protein content you're getting from like real food, and you could be vegetarian and very plant-based and still feel totally fine about having eggs, it's hard to beat that, right? It really is. As far as what you get, even for the more expensive dozen of eggs. I mean, what's really expensive actually is all this packaged food, because you get like no nutrition from it and you're constantly hungry, and you get that caloric impact, and then you have that health impact, right? Talk about expensive, all that stuff. So I digress. Back to eggs. The concern would be cholesterol. And again, that's where you work with your doc. There's more information out there that it's not as critical what your cholesterol values are. Sure, there's LDL, HDL, but what might be more impactful from a lot of doctors and scientists that are looking into this nutritional science, it may be that it's more important what your other blood markers show around them, right? Different panels, different markers, insulin sensitivity, fasting, blood sugar, these things that all coincide to see how you're metabolizing everything may be more impactful, because you could have high cholesterol and then your arteries could be like rock solid, fine, clear. Again, not a doctor. Don't take this as medical advice. Be your own health advocate, and then, seek meaningful, quality medical advice. Shop around, talk around. And Greek yogurt. I like this idea as well. Again, I don't have a ton. I kind of toggle on and off, depending on the season or the year or what have you. There's been times I go like super into Greek yogurt because it's great and it's delicious. It goes really well with a lot of things. I've even been known to stir protein powder, like whey protein, into Greek yogurt and make it a nice little tasty snack. Or you get just a ton of protein. But Greek yogurt, as opposed to I think every other yogurt, has a significant amount of protein in it per serving. You can also look at, depending on your dietary strategy or your regimen, whether you want a higher fat diet, lower carb, or whether you want the vice versa, right? There are Greek yogurts that will align with that. So some are really low fat. You'll see the labels, low fat, but then there'll be quite a bit of sugar. Most of that would be naturally existing sugar, just like milk, just like a lot of dairy products have naturally existing sugar. And if you don't know, look at plain milk, not chocolate milk, not strawberry milk, has quite a bit of sugar in it. So just something to know, if depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, if you're just crushing the milk out there. On the flip side, if you're trying to mind your carbs, and you might think, oh yeah, yogurt, that's low carb. Well, read the label. Again, we're going back to that theme, read the label, and then you will see how drastically they range. And a lot of times when you have the full fat yogurt, the carbs are significantly lower. So that's a choice you can make too. Next is cottage cheese. Very similar. I know that some people are super not into cottage cheese. I grew up a picky kid, so just the idea of it absolutely disgusted me until I got into a lot of these more like bro and bodybuilder type, diet strategies and tips and routines. YouTube, where they would use cottage cheese to make these protein shakes, and don't knock it till you try it. If you are down with dairy, it's pretty amazing when you whip up cottage cheese, chocolate protein. It's really thick and creamy. I mean, you can even put avocado, banana in protein shakes. Banana being like, higher carb, and then avocado being lower carb. So not both, I would say. But man, like you can get really thick, almost milkshake quality type of consistency, which is pretty nuts. And if that is your desire because you have a sweet tooth or you have trouble putting down the calories, like you're a hard gainer, you're always super, super lean, and you'd like to put on some weight, some muscle, and you just can't seem to, drinking your calories through higher caloric means like this. So you can make a huge fatty protein shake, like full fat cream, maybe cottage cheese. You're a lot better off, I would say, than getting like an expensive weight gainer, which is just garbage, kind of carbs and fillers. But just, high quality whey protein or plant protein of your choice, something like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, full fat. Throw some heavy creamer and or like coconut cream, like from the can, not like coconut milk, but that thick stuff. Peanut butter, like depending on what you're going for, like you can easily make this like 800 to 1,000 calorie drink. Take that on your way into work, at the start of your day. Maybe bring the stuff and like keep a magic bullet or something like that at work, or if there's a blender at work, make another one halfway through the day or towards the tail end or what have you, right? And now we're talking about 2,000 calories, which is already kind of like what most people should eat in a day, like most average adults. And that's a lot of food. So if you're a hard gainer, you have those 2 drinks and then you add on more food to it, whether you bring your food or you go to Chipotle and you have all these snacks that we talked about, like some beef sticks and some nuts, and keep a thing of peanut butter in your patrol bag or in the kitchen, and bring some bananas, like you're going to get there pretty quick. So, and these are, largely whole food, like real food solutions. So you're not having to have some garbage just to get the caloric intake. Chia seeds are, they're worth mentioning for sure. A lot of times seeds are going to have more protein per weight and like kind of per, I suppose, unit. Like if you're going like ounce to ounce than nuts. So seeds like chia seeds, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds tend to have a good amount of fiber, low carb generally, especially compared to some, higher carb nuts or peanuts, things like that. So if you are trying to go really low carb or like kind of hover in the keto area, then they could be a really good, helpful strategy. Chia puddings, you could blend them and it kind of creates this gelatinous consistency. But we talk about shakes again, because we were just there, you can blend them. If you want to make chia pudding, there's a ton of recipes online, but you can make just chia with yogurt. You could be chia yogurt berries, put it in overnight, just soak them, and then it'll kind of, swell up, absorb the liquid and make that gelatinous thing. And then at the same time, you could also go back to, I suppose, putting them in Greek yogurt, especially if you let them sit for a little bit, and go from there. Peanut butter, just mentioned that, very much in line with peanuts. And the last one is pumpkin seeds. So, yeah, we just talked about seeds having a more favorable protein to carb ratio than nuts in general, and also just tending to have, per my recollection, most of the time seeds will have less fat to protein ratio compared to nuts. So a good way to get that, make a mix, what have you, keep your blood sugar stable, keep you full for a while. Definitely super caloric, but if you're not satisfied having foods like that, then know that, and know that you'll have a tendency to overeat, or it just won't be super useful. You get a bag of trail mix, or you make your own, you bring it in. Just know that it might not be super helpful to your means. So with that, just a smorgasbord of dietary, I suppose, snack options, leaning on the heavy protein. Just in review, you're going to want to read those food labels, not just for the macronutrients, but the ingredient profile, so you know that it's aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. And if this is helpful and you want more kind of back to the roots of where I was blogging and the things I was talking about on social media or posting about, let me know. Happy to talk about it. A lot of these things have just become kind of routines in my life. And sure, I can hover this way with what the type of food I'm eating and hover that way, but I've just kind of navigated it, and it's a little bit more intuitive at this stage of my life. And I might go pretty regimented in different things in the future. Not to say I won't, but at this stage of my life, nothing crazy, not going like carnivore, not going keto, dabbled with those things before, nearly vegan for a little bit until I did more research, and that's where I really backed off pretty quick. But all to say, if this is of interest to you, let me know. Shoot me an email as always. That's one of the best ways to get a hold of me, bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Also, in closing, I want to mention a couple things that are happening in January, and that is a partnership with Flags to Remember. That's flags.to.remember on Instagram. That's Noel Greeny. Shout out Noel. I'm selling Memento Mori stickers on the website, and he is offered to raffle off one of his custom wooden flags, right? So these are the flags made in honor or in highlight and remembrance of someone's career or a special unit, a promotion. So check out the page, check out my page. You'll see it there too. But these are beautiful, high artistry, impressive workmanship that he does. A lot of the work he does is just to recognize people that are injured or fallen officers to their families, little mementos, Christmas ornaments, all kinds of stuff. So super kind dude that puts out this really positive energy through his craftsmanship. All to say, if you buy a 20 pack of the stickers on the website, it's $20, and then you get all these stickers that you can pass out to your buddies, and then you get to be entered in for a free flag, and that's anywhere in the continental US. You'll ship it out. Super kind offer. And Memento Mori. So if you're unfamiliar, if you've not been following on the social very much, if you mostly listen here, it is a stoic phrase, right? So it's a recognition that we're all going to die. And while that may sound morbid, that's not the point of Stoicism. The point of Stoicism is recognizing that we're all going to die. It actually doesn't paralyze us, right? It helps us live to the fullest. It helps us be extremely grateful for all the moments we have, whether it is 100 days, whether it's 10 years, whether it's 50 years, whether it's 10 days, 10 hours, right? I think 10 hours, you'd have to be a pretty extreme stoic to stay present, but I think I'd be freaking out a little bit knowing that. Regardless, focus on what you can control, be grateful, be patient with the process, and all of this, right? Even and especially something like your nutrition. Just taking interest is the first step, and making small, meaningful changes and choices goes a long, long way. You're setting up the groundwork, right? So this is the kind of stuff I'm going to be talking about in Get Gritty, and that is the course that I've been working on, and I'm really excited to unveil it and to show it and make it available to all of you, because it is really the culmination of all these things I've learned through the past couple decades and recognizing my own health and all these different things and factors that make me as successful as I can be, right? And it's recognizing that you always have all these stressors and all these challenges to navigate, especially in a first responder career. And what can you control? And that starts with mindset, and that goes into building routines. And so not just telling you what to do, but helping you identify those mechanisms and how you can build and alter and grow them. That's what the course is all about. So hit me up, shoot me a line if you want to be notified when that is ready. It's coming along. We're in the final stages, so I'm super stoked about that. Lastly, I mentioned the Memento Mori gear. When you go to bluegritwellness.com/shop or click on shop, you'll see the stickers, you'll see the shirts. And the shirts are in partnership, or not really partnership, but I've decided to slice off a chunk of the proceeds to QRF Up Foundation, right? So it's an organization, find them on social media, QRF Up. They are supporting the suicide prevention of first responders and veterans. They're a really impressive group of people and an app that is based on that. So check that out. Check out their website. Check out their social. They're growing super fast in such a good way because it's about saving lives. But anyway, every purchase of the Memento Mori shirt. All right. I think I've talked far enough in what was intended to be a pretty quick and dirty episode, but shoot, we're at about just over a half hour, not an hour. So this is short for Blue Grit. How much info we try to share with all of you folks. It would be nothing without the listeners, and that is you. So thank you for all your shares, all your comments, feedback, questions, sending it to a buddy, putting it on your social, all your reviews, even going to Spotify and Apple and giving, a 5-star review, 5-star rating, like that stuff all helps. I'm learning about podcast SEO and optimization, and it goes so much to that type of stuff. So although I do feel kind of annoying by asking, I do really appreciate it. So a lot of you that do reach out saying how much you appreciate the project, how good it is for the first responder community and the police community, Thank you. It does mean a lot. It keeps me super motivated to put back into this. At the same time, if you are able to take a moment and do that, extremely, extremely helpful. With that, I wish you a good rest of your January. Thank you so much. It means so much. I'm super humbled by sharing this time and space with you and you sharing it back with me in this project. Thank you. Stay safe and stay gritty. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.